and welcome her to the Good Morning Portugal show. Good morning to you, Savika.
Good morning, Carl. It's been a while.
It has. How are you, Anna?
Better.
Good. I'm so glad to hear that. That's first and most important question. So you're improving because you did let us in a little bit into what was going on for you medically in the last couple of appearances here. And while you've been away and recovering, it looks like things have been changing quite dynamically and drastically in the migration picture of Portugal. What's on your mind about that?
Well, I find it definitely very concerning, the whole NHR announcement. Uh, for me, it seems that our government is pretty much making foreigners the, how do you call it? Bode expiatório?
The scapegoat, perhaps.
Yes, the scapegoat.
Yes.
And I think it will have pretty bad consequences, and I'm quite worried about how this will go around.
Okay.
And this recent announcement, well, it was made out of the blue, so to say. No one was really expecting it. And they are wanting to finish the program until the end of this year, which I find just shows that they have no idea what they are doing, because people, well, the staff doesn't even go through with the visa processes and emits residence cards within that period.
Right.
So this is a very unreasonable decision.
Yes.
It's not a final decision yet. So it is going to be voted on and may change on the 29th of November, which ironically is my birthday.
Hold on a minute. Can I just stop you there?
Yeah.
Because I thought this was a done deal, and I didn't think it was having to go through the promulgation process that the golden visa thing went through. Is there a chance this could be diverted then?
I don't think it's going to be fully diverted, but I think that the proposal itself may be adjusted because it's rather unreasonable. Like what happened with the golden visa, where the proposal was also rather unreasonable and they did change it. Although in the end they also ended it in a rather abrupt way by on the 7th of October, also with not a lot of warning. So I hope that people were able to finish the processes, those who were trying to get those last months in before the closing. But I hoping that they at least postpone the closing of the program until the end of 2024 to give people time to finish their processes, because these processes, they are not quick. They are not something that you do in 2 or 3 months, and people are moving from across the seas, and that's not something you do in that short period of time. And on top of that, well, the services itself, they don't even work to allow that time frame. I mean, I have clients that have applied for visas in 2021 and are still waiting for their residency card.
Yeah. Well, you make a good point there. You called it unreasonable, and it is, isn't it? I mean, to have one part of the government making decisions that another part of the government or the administration can't keep up with, which penalises the people in that process, doesn't seem at all fair. And you would hope, wouldn't you, that there will be some mitigating circumstances and there can be extensions for people who find themselves in that position. But not only that, I mean, the people processing that are going through their own reorganization at the moment, aren't they? So, this is adding further burdens to the administration. And yeah, I suppose the saddest part of it all, which is where you began with this, is who gets the blame for that? It's all these foreigners coming over here, trying to make a life here and spend money and buy property and these sorts of things, and who can be a political scapegoat.
To be fair, I kind of understand what it's coming from, because the NHR program does give a lot of tax benefits, and it's rather unfair from a resident perspective with the amount of taxes we pay. But I don't think it's reasonable at all to end something so abruptly when it's something that people plan years for. Like, at least give them time to finish their process. And the housing issue, it's definitely a very real issue, and I've been talking about this multiple times. I don't think this is the right approach to the problem, but I can see how this may improve the situation on the housing side and on the pricing side, and maybe have the prices come down a bit. But like I've said multiple times, I think that this issue could have been tackled in a different way, but it would have to be tackled back when it started. And this is
Yeah.
the whole thing of the lack of control on real estate transactions and lack of control on pricing, and people can just price however they want. There is no information, there is no control, and that just leads to an out of control inflation on the market that happens in a lot of places. And I think that the first area that felt that the most was the Algarve, with all the foreign interest. And ironically, I don't think that the Algarve is going to be much affected by all this. Well, maybe a bit, but it's still a popular vacation destination, and still a lot of people want to buy vacation homes, and tourism is still a business. I
Yeah.
think the Algarve will be much more affected by the changes on the alojamento local, the short rentals policies. I don't know if you already discussed that here.
Well, yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense, that will change things, but it just seems short-sighted to me. And I actually, one thing I wanted to acknowledge before I say that is your business is built on this sense of fairness, isn't it? I mean, you want people to come to Portugal, you want foreigners to come here, and you want to help them buy property here. And you don't. I mean, I know that's like, it's almost like one of the articles of your organizational constitution, that shouldn't happen at the expense of Portuguese people. This can be a
Yeah.
win-win, can't it? It can be a pie that gets bigger for everybody, rather than this situation which we seem to be going into, which I think if it's left only to the government, it's very likely it will be like this, given what we've seen, in terms of their tactics, that it will look bad. It will look like it's the foreigners that are doing this. And it is an unfair situation for local people. And I applaud you for taking that. And it's not an easy position to take, is it? To run a business that wants to honor both the incomers and the native people, and to make sure they get a fair deal as well. How do you think that's going? The government aren't helping you with that, are they?
No, the government aren't helping me at all. I'm definitely concerned. I very much hope that they don't decide me to give me a rotten birthday present on the 29th. But
Yeah,
I don't really have much control over that, and I may just have to spin the target audience for my business,
yeah,
because, as you said, my business has been very much about balance. And definitely, the NHR program is something that a lot of my clients were looking forward to. So this affects my business very deeply.
yeah.
And like I said, I understand where the measure is coming from. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I think it should at least give people enough time to finish the processes they already started, which
Mm.
is not the case with the proposal they made.
Yeah, and it does seem to me to be a little bit, I don't know, is it counterintuitive, but to kill the market, to stop people coming, whether that's based on a reality or just a perception or an emotional knee-jerk reaction, doesn't seem the best thing for an economy to me. If you
Yes,
want
I'm also concerned on the long-term impact this will have, because truth
yeah,
is, as you know, the government is making a lot of money with these incoming foreigners, and it has been a very big source of investment also in real estate, and a lot of renovation has happened in the cities thanks to this kind of investment. And I am wondering where they are going to get this income they are pushing away from. And I don't think that the Portuguese people will actually be happy with the result of this on the long term, but we'll see.
yeah, 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 well said. I mean, the simple thing to do would be to fund the building of some social housing, would it not, as a major step forward? What's so
This
difficult about that?
this is something that has been discussed multiple times, but as government projects tend to go, they just don't happen.
Yeah, right.
So I know, for example, of a location here in Porto that has already been assigned for reconstruction for affordable housing promoted by the government. And the person who told me about this was my father back in like 2018 or 2019. My father is no longer with us. And until the date, not a single work was done on that property.
You're kidding.
No.
Right. Okay. Right.
So I believe there are a lot of projects in that situation. I know of that one, and I know there are a few in Lisbon too. Ironically, uh, the private projects do tend to move forward a lot faster. And ironically, once again, the things that make the projects harder for the private sector and investors is exactly the government and the town halls with all their pushing back. So I can
Mm.
give you a very real example of a client of mine who's making a very big development in Gaia, and he purchased we actually agreed on the purchase of the plot in 2021, but the purchase itself was only made in like September 2022. And we have been working with town hall since like mid 2022. It's been over a year now, and the situation has pretty much been restarted because they changed the town hall staff, and the new staff pretty much has completely different ideas and wants to make just change the whole project.
It's. I mean, this. What can be done about that, Anna? This is something that's clearly well scandalous, basically, isn't it? And what can be done is the problem with this that there is such an entrenched sort of bureaucracy, and that in. Am I right in thinking that the I mean, I'm not sure how to put this, but the civil service, the bureaucracy itself, will be a major supporter of the government. So the government don't want to lose the votes of the civil service, and so they don't want to upset them too much and get things like this moving. The government. It sounds to me like the government won't treat the civil service harshly, the administration, the bureaucracy harshly, because that's where their voting base might be.
I don't think that's the issue at all. I think
Right.
the issue with the public service is bad management, and
Okay.
that the people on the high charges, the high office positions are just really bad at their jobs and really
Is that?
misplaced, and what we call in Portugal tachos. So when someone is put on the position because they know someone, we
Oh,
call that tacho.
okay.
And there's a lot of tacho in public services, and they make them work terribly. And I can give you also a very real example. So my mother is an environmental engineer that works for town hall for a very long time, and she used to be the head of the water department until her reports started being too inconvenient, and she was moved to the sound department, and now her head of the department is a psychologist.
Oh, okay. Right. So your family don't sound entirely happy with that promotion or or position there. So what I mean, well, I mean, practically, what would it take then? It would take a new government or a new set of politicians who are willing to tackle this issue of. In some circles, it's called the Peter principle, isn't it? Where people are promoted up to a level of incompetence. And from what you say, it sounds like there might be quite a lot of that inside the Portuguese administration, where people get promoted, not necessarily because of their skills and competence, but for other reasons. And it might be a sort of lifelong thing, a sort of job for life situation, where they become a blockage and an inefficiency, which is actually becoming counterproductive for the local and national economy we're seeing here, and becomes a political issue. Are there any political parties that are noticing this and bring it to people's attention and want to stick a laxative in there, so to speak?
I think in general, everyone knows about this. The issue with the public services is that It's also because of the Portuguese law. It's very very hard to fire people, and in the public sector, most of the people are with effective contracts, so long term, like board contracts.
Yes.
And once again, going back to the example of my mother was head of department, so she was kind of the top of her career and earning a good bit. And she was moved to another location where she's kind of, how do you say it, redundant.
Hmm.
But she gets still paid the salary as a chief because she cannot, they cannot reduce her child's salary legally. So now she actually earns more than her chief at her department, even though she's actually redundant staff. But she's about to retire, so there's that too. But overall, I think it's a problem of how the legal system was built around employment that also is not helping in this situation at all. Because truth is, it's very very hard to kick out incompetent people and prove their incompetence. And generally, the government is not really willing to go through that process, so people just stay there, or they can just be convenient to the other people on top. And I think that the only way to change this would be to change the head of the departments to people who are more, I think, people who actually have a business mindset and look at it like a business that has to be efficient. Because what happens right now is that it isn't efficient, and generally the priority of um, the public services is to save on their budget regardless of the service they are providing, but they are just bleeding money with all this bad positioning of staff.
Yep, it's not an unknown phenomena around the world, is it? Thank you for that little bit of cultural insight there. And cheers, Carl and Anna. You guys rock, says Milan, who's joined us. The NHR, why not phase it in like Anna suggests? Sounds more streamlined. Also, it just all politics, lack of control, pricing is just lacking in long-term planning. It will make an impact on expats. So let's go back to that, Anna. And
And
you
it
did.
will make an impact on locals and the local economy too.
Yeah, right. And you sound a somewhat sort of grave and serious about this, and the implications of it long term for your business. What sort of conversations are you having with your clients at the moment, and how can you help people?
Like, that's one of the problems right now, because nothing is set in stone right now. So we are telling them what is the current proposal, but truth is this may not be the final proposal, but we cannot give any guarantees of that. So generally, people that are already in Portugal and had already started the visa processes, we probably are able to get them the NHR process started until December by certificate of residence. But those of our clients, which we also have, that are were, starting the process but are looking to move next year, it's going to be very hard, especially if they are overseas. Like, if they are in Europe, it's much easier because you can just have a rental and have a estado de morada, and you can say that you are a resident and you can move forward with it.
Hmm.
But we don't know. Actually, literally, my lawyer called the services and they couldn't give us a straight answer on whether or not they will be requiring the people to have their residency cards in order to start the residency in the NHR, which would make sense. The issue is the SAF is very, very delayed with the residency card attribution.
Of course, of course. So, but you are continuing to help people. It's a rather grey picture at the moment, but you are helping people get over the line with this. We are getting some heat. I mean, I'm speaking to as many people as I can about the possible implications of the NHR across the Good Morning Portugal team and the various co-hosts here. Somebody on YouTube took offence to this last night. All this theorising that the end of the NHR shouldn't affect expats' plans is almost insulting. So somebody's been a bit insulted or feeling a bit insulted by what we've been saying, I think. Oh, I thought you were coming here for the food and the culture, so suddenly losing half your income should not matter to you. It's a ridiculous and insensitive perspective that views the matter abstractly and not in terms of people's real life circumstances. In actuality, once the NHR ends immigration to Portugal, no, sorry, let me read that again. In actuality, once the NHR ends immigration to Portugal, it's going to fall off a cliff. I mean, that sounds, I mean, is that someone having an over emotional reaction, or do you think there's some truth in that?
I think that people consider Portugal, what I've seen from my clients is that when people are looking to move, they are generally looking to improve their quality of life.
Yes.
And of course, how much their money can go in that country will be a big factor in that. And it will influence significantly the comfort of your life.
Yeah, right.
And also, for a lot of my clients that are on the higher end of income, the NHR was definitely one of the big factors, because they are very taxed on their country of origin, and it allowed their income to move forward. And I'm not one to judge what they do with their income. I'm the first to say that I'm very frustrated with the amount of money that I give to the government, but it is what it is. But
Yeah.
these people have a choice, and if Portugal.
Oh dear. Okay. It was flickering a little bit. I don't know if Savikat Anna's having a little bit of a problem with her technology because of the weather or for other reasons, but we seem to have
It's not because of the weather. For some reason, this computer doesn't like this camera, and I actually already changed put the new software, so I have no idea what's doing. Why
Well, here's the
it's
thing.
doing this.
We can hear you, so do continue. We can definitely still hear what you're saying.
Ah,
Well, there you go. You're back.
So I was saying, I got lost. So I
You're
completely
frustrated about
understand.
the amount of, you're not judging people for how they want to spend their money, but it will affect, or sorry, how they want to deal with their taxation. And you're frustrated by the amount you have to pay the government. However,
Yes, for example, for retirees, it was an extremely attractive program, because they were only taxed 10% of their income. I mean, wouldn't wanted that? I don't know how it is on the other countries, but here in Portugal, the amount you get when you retired is not necessarily the same amount you get when you are earning. So you definitely wanted to stretch it as much as possible, and not everyone is especially not all of my clients definitely are in a super comfortable financial position.
I understand, and I have said this. I understand why that person was upset, and they finished their comments with, "Believe it or not, you will see the effects of it very soon." I'm not sure about that. Few things happen very soon or quickly, it would seem, apart from the ending of the
I
NHS.
think that's true, because
You do,
we already received a multiple, even clients that I've been working with. We already received many contacts saying that they will start considering other countries, because if they were still at the start of the process, they aren't really stuck here yet.
yeah. Okay, well, fair enough. We shall see. We shall see. And in the meantime, you will be continuing to help people, of course. Anna, for those people who don't know you, what services are you offering to people?
So we basically provide a full package of relocation services. We support with the visa process, and this means the things that you need to obtain in Portugal, because we cannot work in your country of origin as much as we love to.
Yeah.
Currently, another thing that is being very complicated is the bank accounts. It's being harder and harder to open bank accounts online. So we are shifting mostly to opening in person, as we've been having a lot of issues with the banks. And I know there are other services that provide this bank account opening. I don't know how they are doing it, but I already got all my lawyers involved, and I have maybe they have a contact inside. But it's been very hard for us to open accounts online, even when we have the contacts inside. So hopefully the other guys still find a way. And I'm actually also hoping that Revolut, the online bank who applied to get a headquarters in Portugal, does get that through, because it would make the online bank account opening so much easier.
You're
But
right. I mean, I've been waiting for this for a long time. They are headquartered, aren't they, in Porto for sure, Matosinhos, I think. And but
yeah, but they haven't been approved by the Bank of Portugal yet as an official bank, I think.
yeah, but I would imagine the banking industry is not keen to welcome them among its ranks. But we'll see what happens with that.
Yes, I really hope they do because the banks are getting really, really complicated lately. And I understand why, because basically the government put them in a position where they are working they are doing theft job.
Yeah,
So basically the government made it so that it's their responsibilities to screen visas, which is just silly. And then it becomes a whole we call it peixe de rabo na boca, so a whole circle,
yeah,
because
which
we've
is
been
circle, yeah.
having multiple replies where the banks just say, "Oh, you need the visa to open the bank account," but then you need the bank account to choose to have the visa. So,
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. We've got a question that's come in here from Kendall Lampkin, a new name on the screen here. Does the end of the NHR affect the pension of government pensions from the US? I think we understand, which was exempt from Portugal taxes because of the dual taxation treaty.
it wasn't exempt. It had a lower taxation, which was the 10%.
Yeah.
And yes, it will affect.
Oh, we've lost your sound now, Anna, for some reason. Oh, yeah, you're back
I
again now.
don't know why it's happening, the sound part, honestly.
Yeah.
But yes, it will affect pretty much everyone because the NHR was exactly the regime that allowed for this lower taxation. So
Yes.
it's going to be removed, which means that you get the regular Portuguese taxation,
Yeah.
unless they create another type of program, which we both know that the government hasn't been very effective in doing.
Sure, but there are rumblings for sure, aren't there, about what might replace it or what it might evolve into. Specifically for Kendall's question here, if I could test my understanding of this with you, Anna, and compare it
Mhm.
to yours, you will be paying the difference between what you would pay, if any, back in the US, and the difference between that and the tax rate you would be paying here in Portugal. So it would, I mean, like it would have done anyway. After 10 years, it would have changed.
Unfortunately, it is not that simple. So it depends on something called the
Oh, are these
I-
the exemptions, not
the
or
double
the
taxation treaties.
yes, yeah,
Something that's how it's called, right? So that is something that really needs to be analyzed with on a case by case scenario
yes,
with international taxation expert
yeah,
because it's going to depend on these treaties and how if they exist or not because some countries don't have these treaties, which means that you actually get double taxed,
yes,
and then some countries you have these treaties where it happens where what you were describing.
yeah, and you'll be paying the difference. I think it's unlikely with the US you'll be paying twice, but I suspect you'll be paying the difference. But as Anna quite rightly says, this should be assessed on a case by case basis. There are no useful generalities here. Yeah, I think there's some general guidance possibly, but you must do your own numbers with a Portuguese and a tax accountant or tax expert in the country of origin to know exactly how this is going to affect you. And we've got the added
Yes, and
complication. It's not settled yet, is it? So
the
when could you just
DTAs, they
remind
are
us?
supposed to avoid double taxation. So
Yes,
in many cases what happens is that you can choose where you are taxed, and usually people chose to be taxed in Portugal because it was more advantageous,
yeah.
but once again it depends on the DTAs, the double taxation agreements.
Well, I guess paying the difference is double taxation. It's true, technically.
Yes, it's technically, but once I said it, like I said, it depends on these DTAs between countries and they vary.
Yeah, and I guess, do you want to pay the difference, or do you want to pay? Do you want to pay the a tax on the same amount in both countries, or on your original sum in both countries at the appropriate rates? To get your point, though, Mr. S, on that, we're coming up to 9:30. Jason Hall will be joining us soon. Any other message you want to give? Can we give people some comfort here, Anna? It's quite an unsettled picture, of course. What can we say to
Well,
people?
honestly, I think the only positive thing is I actually found the measures on the eligible call to be quite decent.
Right.
So I was also worried about that because there was murmurs that we're going to completely um, terminate the licensing for apartments. But what actually happened is that whoever has a license gets to maintain their license, but they do have to prove they are active and go and register again on a platform, which I'm sure it will crash, but hopefully that works. And it's no longer transmissible. The element local license. So people, when they sell the house, they can no longer sell the element local along with it. So that makes it so it's not very advantageous to sell, and it's going to be hard to people who buy something with element local to get the license again, because most of the apartments will be excluded, and there are going to be two entities that will be able to remove the licenses. One of them is town hall, and the other one will be the condominium. So if you have an alojamento local in a regular habitation condominium, the condominium can vote you out with majority, and that place will lose its license. And although this has happened, it was a full legal process that went to court, and now it's been legislated. So now it happens automatically. If the condominium decides they don't want the alojamento local there, the alojamento local loses its license. So that's a factor, and no more licenses will be emitted in most cities. There are cities where it's still going to function normally because, well, it's interior cities and they do want to promote tourism. But now the town hall can reject licenses, and generally, no new licenses will be attributed to apartments, only if it is the whole building or an independent house.
Very good. Thank you for your insight on that. The AL Alojamento Local situation, of which it sounds like you're broadly in favour. Douglas says, "I feel this new system will severely hamper many thousands of retirement dreams. It was certainly affecting people's decision-making processes and choices, isn't it? It must be a real worry."
Yes.
And we'll come back to your question, Kendall, in just a moment. The challenge with the US taxation and double taxation is that the US taxes citizens regardless of where they reside. Yeah, alongside Eritrea and North Korea, I think. And most of the rest of the world taxes its residents regardless of where they are citizens. Kendall, I'm in Portugal and have my D7 visa, which will expire on December the 18th. I'm trying desperately to get my CEF appointment. Anointment. It's almost that does sound very grandiose, an anointment with Seth, but those appointments are so precious. It is almost an anointment. And into the NHR before December 31st. Any advice? Can you help with that with Kendall?
So basically, if you already have the visa, you are fine. You just the in order to start the NHR program, you just need to fill um, a form on finances saying that you are officially residing in Portugal from this date,
Yeah.
and that date has to be before December 31st. And whoever does this before December 21st is able to get the full 10 years of the program. So if you had already done this, you are safe. And the issue here, like I said, is people that still don't have their residency card and don't have their final visa approved, and whether or not those processes that have already been initiated will be finalized before this deadline.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And do you help people directly with that? I mean, I'm sure you like to offer people a fuller
Well,
service.
we do help our clients with that, but I fully agree with Kendall, which is this is a nightmare, and we've
Yeah.
had multiple instances of calling the NHR 1,000 times in order to get a booking. So no one really has any special accesses, even lawyers, accountants, everyone pretty much has to do the same, which is call again and again and again until they eventually answer, and eventually you can get an appointment. So unfortunately, there aren't really shortcuts for that.
There you go. Sorry, that's not better news for you, Kendall. So in summary then, and finally, Savvy Cat Anna, how do people get in touch with you if they want to take advantage of your service and find out a bit more about how you work and maybe get a little bit more reassurance about this whole business,
Yes.
which is a bit unsettled at the moment, isn't it, moving to Portugal?
Yes, it's definitely not as easy, and this is definitely a big change factor. So you can contact me through my website at www.savvycatrealty.com, which I believe appears here somewhere, and also the
I will
general
make sure
email.
it goes onto the screen. So we've got savvycatrealty.com. And any final words? I'm very sorry to that person who felt insulted by our earlier conversations. Not you and me, Anna, but others that we've been having. We do recognise it's a very, it's going to have a big impact, and it is going to have people reassess their plans. What are your final words on that?
Well, once again, I just hope they at least postpone this for 2024.
Yeah.
And if that's not the case, unfortunately, I don't have very good perspectives for the long-term economical impact of this measure.
My goodness. Okay, that's pretty serious that we've heard from Savvy Cat Anna this morning, Anna Caramujo. There is the website if you want to get, if you like the cut of her jib, as it were, and want to work with her, go to savvycatrealty.com. Anna, I'm sorry we're meeting under such sort of awkward circumstances this morning, but thank you for being as straightforward and pal queijo as you usually are, and that's what people love about you, right?
Thank you.
All right, take care. Bye for now. And love to all the team at Savvy Cat Realty. Take care. Ciao, ciao. Cheers, Anna. Have a good day.